to the Festival
of Storytellers.
I can't tell you how excited I am to be on right now. It's been a couple of weeks of excitement, getting prepared, and I've done a lot of things in my life, but this has got to be close to the top.
Thank you, and Reader's Magnet, and thank you, John, for putting this forth and taking the chance on us authors in presenting this out to the world.
I've enjoyed this immensely, Joanne.
Ellie, so have I. Thank you for who you are, and thank you, Reader's Magnet. You all are beautiful, and you've worked so very hard, and we are blessed.
We are.
I thank everybody that's involved with this process, because we know writers need readers and writers need publishers. We thank Reader's Magnet and everybody that's involved. I love Reader's Magnet. They say, we share your stories with the world.
Hello, my name is Paul HATKE. I'm the author of the book Reading the Tassels, and I'll give a little background of myself. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. I was born here, raised here, and my wife and I continue to live here. I welcome any questions that anybody may have about this book. I first published it about 4.5 years ago. And thanks to Reader's Magnet, I'm trying to give it new life. And I'm very appreciative of being part of the Festival of Storytellers. And I welcome any questions anybody may have. I'll do my best to answer them. Thank you. If I happen to have any viewers, I may have a small part of the book I'm going to read from. I'm going to start in chapter 7 of the book, and starts, school had resumed. A new year in progress. Sometimes felt as if everyone was staring at me. There shouldn't be a reason to feel this way, but it might be natural when things have not gone very well. It seemed as though Arlene was haunting my thoughts. There was a likeness of her in my mind. Sometimes words would come out, talking to myself as though talking to her. Sometimes other people would find me doing this. Often they would laugh it off or put some distance between themselves and me. A class period had rolled around at school, and it was the boring English 4. This was attended impassively as most classes. Grades were so-so in English. It's what often happens when doing just enough to get by. Our teacher was an all right guy. His name was Ulysses Short. The last name was very misleading. He was 6'4" tall and had been a college basketball player. His talent at the game was not enough to go beyond college, but he was assistant coach for our basketball team, and he got along well with most students, especially the athletes. This particular day, he brought something to the attention of the class. The month of January has opened a new year to us, has closed the door behind us on a year that will be studied in the history books. This month, this year, the remainder of the decade will bring about many changes to this class and the entire class of seniors that will graduate. He related as he paced across the floor, first to one side of the room and then to the other. His voice was strong. It projected out as that of a stage actor. Janus was a god from mythology that was known to keep a vigilance on doors. He is often shown to be two-faced, putting the past behind us and looking to the future, or closing one door and opening another. The month is named in honor of him. We should return honor in making the future exciting, at the very least worthwhile. Okay, looking around the classroom, some of the students were drawing in the words Mr. Short just delivered. Many others were yawning and displaying the boredom the classes often have. This was different. I like what he told us. There was no plan to excel in school the remainder of the year, but this piece of information from mythology helped for the moment. What Mr. Short had just told us about Janus could be very useful in some way. It seemed interesting. The mention of one of the gods made the English class a little less dull. Okay, I got a question. Is this book based on true events or personal experiences? This comes from Elaine. Elaine, I had based the book on some personal experiences and dealt with some of my friends that had experienced some mishaps in their life, some love lives in high school, which so many people have. And I tried to turn these around. I really didn't use any names from anybody that I had known at that time. But it was something that I thought could be expressed and something that may enlighten the reader of that particular time if they had not grown up and been raised at that particular period that the book takes place. Thank you. Okay, going to read another passage from the book. This is from chapter 3, one of the earlier parts of the book. This is when Wes had been working at a grocery store just after doing our meeting. One of the co-workers by the name of Rebecca that he was a little infatuated with. Our boss, Mr. Trombeck, didn't like the idea of people dating co-workers. So we kept quiet about this and tried to be nonchalant toward each other when in close contact. Her name was Rebecca, and she had a kind of reddish brown hair and trusting brown eyes. Her hair actually looked dark brown, but if you looked at it and thought of red, there seemed to be a hint of red. She moved almost dreamlike. If she had worn her dress down to the ground, you might think she was skating across the ground rather than walking. She had a fine figure and was smart. She most likely was too smart. With me, there was always a draw to intelligent girls. It was nice to be out with Rebecca, but the only way to go on a date was to double date. This had to be arranged, and there was not much time given to be alone with her. It would really be enjoyable being somewhere that didn't have me so self-conscious, and one may sense Rebecca felt much the same. There was a day the two of us were back by the freezer and were caught up in the moment. We must have steamed up the window in the door of the nearby freezer. She pressed her body against me, and my thoughts were beginning to lose my sense of what was happening in the grocery. Everything other than her was secondary. Our actions were going far when we heard the stockroom door being thumped. Rebecca released her arms from around me, and we both stepped back quickly. Rebecca looked composed. Looking toward the door was Jance. He slowly walked in. He was one of the older guys that stocked groceries, did a bit of everything, and also held a position that was almost as the assistant manager. Jance was built strong. As a stock boy, he fit the description. He was thick and stocky. His hair was light and thinning, and he had resembled a character on a popular TV series. Okay, I got another question. Is what were your thoughts while you were writing that passage? Actually, I was thinking of a actor from Bonanza, played Hoss Cartwright, and I pictured him as a stock boy. There was a guy that I knew that was a year older than me that kind of fit that description too. And he had worked at a larger grocery chain, and I tried to position him in that place. As far as the lady, I kind of had a crush on some girl, just a slight crush that resembled her description a little bit. I'm not really sure how smart she was. I pictured Rebecca in the story as being a very intelligent girl. As the chapters go on, you see where she moved into a different direction from the grocery store. She actually intended to be a journalist, and I wrote her part where she was working in that direction. Are there any other questions? Have you ever thought about this story for a long time and then decided to write it? Tell us more about how this book came about. Okay, I had thought about this for quite some time. I was a little slow in putting this down, but how the story actually evolved was from chapter 4. Chapter 4 is as close to the truth as the book actually was that I took part in. There were 3 of us that went to a football game one night, and I had written down my memory of this. And after rereading it, I figured I could fill in both sides of this with additional chapters. And that's what I did. Once again, the names were changed. I really did not picture myself being the narrator of the book, but that's kind of how it evolved. And by turning the names around, a few incidents, I pretty much had what I wanted on this book and tried to bring that particular time, that particular period in my life that I had lived, and hopefully some of the older readers may have lived, and allow them to recall things that did occur at that time. For any younger people, I hope this may give them an idea of some of the things that were going on at the time. Maybe see it down on print rather than looking up something that may be on YouTube or some other media, social media bit. And I was wondering if there might be any other questions. I got a question that asks, what was the first book that made me cry? Well, it's kind of unusual. I think it was later on in my life when it actually did have me tear up a little bit. It was a novel form. Is about a guy that was he was found guilty of a crime and was to be electrocuted. The writer his name escapes me at the time, wrote this and made the character so real to me that I actually felt myself tearing up as I read his book. Very well written book. I wish I could come up with the name of that book at this time. I'm sorry. Do we have any more questions? Okay, I just got one. It's from Gals. Just curious, how do you select the names of the characters for your book? Uh, One name in particular, I used the father's name of a friend of mine. Rather than him, I used his father's first name. Some of the people that were mentioned on this, I had used their actual name, the girl by the name of Rebecca in chapter 3. Her name actually was Rebecca. I don't think she remembers me because although I was slightly infatuated by her, we never went out. Some of the other names, I think I went by a middle name a time or two. One of the people by the name, one lady by the name of Arlene, who happens to be killed in a car wreck in the book, just happened to be the name of an actress I thought was a very attractive woman, Arlene Dahl. I think she's still living. And I kind of pictured her as a younger person and how she seemed to always have every hair in place. Her complexion was very pretty and kind of patterned her in my idea of how she looked like when she may have been a teenager. Do I have any other questions? Okay. An earlier time, I had somebody ask about the most difficult chapter to write, and that would be chapter 11, trying to close the book. So I'm going to read a couple of paragraphs from chapter 11. Everyone in my graduating class was getting antsy. I was no exception. With our diplomas about to be received and each of us considering what to do, brought this out, and it seemed an exciting time for school. My enthusiasm had not been such for anything pertaining to school since starting the first grade. Another thing that kind of loomed was what each of us would be doing after graduating. There was still a summer to enjoy, but after that, it most likely would become serious. With all that was going on, the best thing to do was to take as much of it in as possible, enjoying being part of it. Some of this advice came from Bart. He was passing along what his father had said to him. My classes at school were beginning to get more interesting. What irony, of all times to get eager about my studies. Graduating near the top 10% would not be something to expect. Graduating in the upper half was probably a pipe dream too, but school was more enjoyable to attend this last semester. It was as if something was actually showing from my efforts. My study spot on the dining room table had become a regular thing to associate effort, and a calming effect would fall over my being. The idea of accomplishing something worthwhile while sitting there one night, my sister Kate walked past. Kate, I've actually enjoyed the last couple of months of school. It has come to the point where studying is not so tedious like it used to be. It's kind of strange. Oh, maybe, Wes. You're showing some sign of maturity. All along, I could have told you that putting your nose in a book and learning something is not a bad thing. You don't want to be in a hopeless situation all your life. The homework helps for sure. Excuse me. I got a question. Did you think about the title first, then the plot of the story, or was it the other way around? The title kind of came last. I had actually intended to name my book something that I really never liked. I was going to have it as Senior Year 1968, 1969. And I really never liked that title. It had come to me sometime later when I was thinking about it, of what was common with everybody that graduated that was participating in the ceremony. And they were all moving their tassels once they received their diploma. And that's how I came up with the title of Moving the Tassels. Was displaying something that showed some effort that had taken place. And any high school student will probably tell you that there's a lot of effort put in as far as getting their diploma. For those who have graduated, of course, they will attest to that, I'm sure. Do we have any other questions? Going to read another excerpt of the book. This was from chapter 8, the very first page of chapter 8. The first month of 1969 had come to a close, and February had arrived on the calendar. Arlene had been dead for about 5 weeks now, and thoughts of her came to my mind constantly. One might think this was an obsession, perhaps so. When meeting someone like her, well, she was just one of those type of girls. What else could be said? Life goes on. When a man hires you to work his business and you're expected to be there, this sometimes helped take my mind off Arlene. Now to the thought of Rebecca. This too could take my mind off Arlene for a while, and it was something that did have me thinking. Rebecca was going to be working for a newspaper a few nights a week. Her interest in journalism was allowing her the opportunity for her to actually report there. She's nice to look at. So businesslike, though. Keeping up with a young woman like her would require enormous effort. Maybe that boyfriend of hers can keep pace. Going to go to chapter 9. This moves on into another month. And this is the first page of chapter 9. This is Sunday, March 2nd. Kind of a gloomy day. The weekend had been rotten. My birthday is tomorrow. It's Monday the 3rd. Birthday number 18. Time to be recognized as a man. Time to sign up for the draft. Maybe it's time to knuckle down and make the last weeks in high school respectable in the way of my grades. Failing is possible. Sitting out from graduation is not a pleasant thought. Some of the classes are going okay, but that doesn't guarantee that all my teachers are going to give me passing grades. Everyone has to pass English, that's for sure. It will take 5 classes to earn enough credits to get my diploma. And it's crazy when goofing around all this time in the last months, it comes time to be serious. Graduating after completing a class in summer school is not an appealing thing. Bart Fellows doesn't worry about such things. He prepares. He's smart enough to know better. He has college in mind. Most everybody in my school is confident that they will graduate. I wish I was there. Okay, I got a question. It says, please share to us your favorite part of the book. I'm going to go to chapter 4. Chapter 4 is the very first chapter I wrote, and then I backfilled and added to. It was the usual Friday night high school game. I was waiting for a friend, George, to drive over and give me a ride to the game. George was an acquaintance, and recalling how we struck up friendship is not clear, but it wasn't anything to regret in befriending him. My parents liked George, at least my mother did. She must have seen George's positive influence on me. George was studious. He was a year older and attended a local college, although preparing to transfer soon. It came as no surprise that he was also doing well in college. Most of my other friends were doing their schoolwork with below average grades. My grades were right there with them. I'm going to move on a little bit on this. Okay, the game had gone back and forth, and it was coming upon halftime with a tie score of 14-14. Most of the game went on, and it was barely noticed that both teams scored twice. Maybe the three of us been scouting too much to see who was in attendance. There's another girl I wanted George to meet, and then again, maybe not. She might be attracted to him. Worse than that, an introduction to Roger was something to consider. He no doubt would make this uncomfortable. Let's walk around the tracks, George suggested. We went around along this and weaved in and through and others going here and there. In a short time, we were the opponent's side of the field. It was my school's opponent. Neither George nor Roger had attended the same school as me. Glancing up ever so often, it seemed someone might appear in this group that would be known. Strange that all my friends were no-shows tonight. Eventually, we did see someone, but not who was ever expected. It was my sister Kate and her friend Carol. It couldn't be helped notice that Carol was wearing bell-bottom blue jeans. Like so many other things, the clothes were taking on a different look too. Wes, Kate called out. There was a desire to keep moving on in a way, but it was better to stop and talk. Kate, I didn't know you were going to be at this game. You didn't say anything about it. And then it felt kind of funny at this time. Now would be an appropriate time to introduce everybody. Okay, I've got a question about why chapter 4 is my favorite. First off is the chapter I started the book out with. I said this at an earlier time. I had first written chapter 4. I reread what I had written and realized this one being the closest to what would be autobiographical. I realized I could add some parts to this, some chapters before and some chapters after, and have the book I was wanting to deliver. Is an introduction to a guy that I called Roger. There's actually a guy that I knew that joined us one evening, and he was home on leave from the Marine Corps. And he was telling us some of the stories about the Marine Corps. He was also kind of difficult to be around, but he was he was interesting, and I have not seen him since that particular night, but he was part of the book. Okay, another question is, how did you feel when you first get a hold of your published book? Okay, first seen it, seen my name on there, guess I was a little bit in shock, uh, excited, and had to show it to my wife. I think it caught her off guard too, but it was an interesting time. I have attempted a couple other things earlier and never got my name in print as I had hoped, or at least not in an earlier time. And it's just a different feeling. Um, there's something about exposing oneself when they do write something. And although the book is not about me, it is about some friends of mine growing up at that particular time, and just a small portion, I guess, of myself in there. It it was fun to write too, uh, because I was reflecting on the times of what had occurred at that particular period in my life. Excuse me. Okay, this is from Alina. Alina, have you always thought of becoming a writer when you were younger? No, I didn't. I worked in telecommunications from the time I was 18 years old until 41 years later when I retired. I had dabbled in writing. A friend of mine from high school and I used to write the lyrics to songs. Uh, we never did very good with them. And thinking back on some of them, I guess they were kind of silly. I wish I still had them, but I don't know where they went. We tried to write a number of them and never recorded anything. It's probably a good thing they weren't recorded. And it'd probably be our own recorders that would have had that use. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. I okay. My particular book, once again, Tassels, can be purchased through my website, which is on the ribbon below the screen here. It can also be purchased through Amazon. I think that would mainly be in the ebook platform, and I think Barnes and Noble can get a copy of this book for you. Probably be ordered through some local bookstores. I'm not exactly sure of that, but major book distributors can get the copy of the book for it, or on my website you can order the book through me, and I would be happy to sign the book for you if you wish. Uh, I've got a queue of when I'm going to be live next time, and I really do not. I'll have to leave that up to the people at Reader's Magnet. I'm not exactly sure when the next time is for me to be live. And I think we're about to close it down for right now. For those that watch this presentation, I appreciate for any questions that were asked. I hope I answered them in some manner that properly. And I thank you for your attention. And if you purchase a book, I thank you for that too. And since there are no other questions, and I think I've finished up, we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.